Hello, welcome to all of you out there. Dear astrology friends, this is me, Veerle, and we're going to have an explanation here, a video about the eclipse. An eclipse on approximately the 14th of March of 2025. Yes, it's eclipse season again in March. And on the 14th, we're going to have what we call a lunar eclipse. And it's one in Virgo. And we're going to have a look at what is this all about, what is the originated eclipse here, and then for each and every sign, where is this happening. But very clear, concise, not too much in detail, because then we don't see anything anymore if we're overdoing it. Now, so eclipse season, it means the nodes, they have been shifted, right? They are now, the south node is in Virgo. It's at the very end of it. So it will be around 27 degrees of Virgo. And the south node, the north node, sorry, is at 27 degrees of Pisces. So where we want to go is Pisces, the north node. Where we need to let go of, and you could say karmically things that end, is the Virgo side. Now, I talk about this north node, south node thing. At the end of the video, you will see a link to that video that I made just about that. But as I said, on the 14th of March, boom, full moon. A lunar eclipse means that the nodes are involved here. So it is always around this time of the year that we have a full moon in Virgo, which is the opposite sign of Pisces. So we're going to have that around 23, 24 degrees of Virgo, the moon. And it's going to be with the south node, and then oppose the sun at 23 degrees of Pisces, where the north node is, 27 degrees of Pisces. So that is what we call a full moon. And a full moon in general is always, every month we have that. It's always about an accomplishment. Things become very conscious. Things become very real and very known. And it's a bit like, the peak of a season, so to speak. And so we know that this is happening, and there is some sort of a fulfillment here. And it's a Virgo fulfillment, right? It's a Virgo fulfillment that will have to do with Virgo stuff. And depending on where this area of your life is, we will express it in this Virgo way. Now, because the south node is there, it's about letting go. It's about letting go of Virgo traits that are, of course, no longer suiting us. Of course, don't let go of the good traits, right? Which are plenty of. This is not about Virgo being a bad sign or whatnot. No, it's just about south node. And when we have the south node with the moon, it's a letting go, south node, of something that we are very attached to. The moon, it's unconscious, what we are unconscious attached towards. And the moon is also habits, it's habits, and it represents what we know very well. So you could say Virgo traits in a challenging way is, of course, the wanting to know every single detail, being very detail oriented, but too much, anything too much is not good. If you are detail oriented, that's not a bad thing. But if you overdo it, it is, because you don't see the overview anymore. So this is about these things, like the Virgo is like also nagging, when it overdoes it, it's very judgmental, Virgos, because, they see immediately the flaws, and they know exactly what needs to be fixed. And they can be a little bit like, judging, or come across, not that they wanted to, I mean, seldomly. Virgos, they really have that heart of understanding, and an understanding mind as well. And they really want to make this world a better place. But again, if you overdo it, it's not a good thing. Perfectionism is another one. I want things to be perfect first, the perfect conditions, and then I'm going to act. So that's also a pitfall. Being too much of service so that you lose yourself, also a pitfall. And worrying. Worrying is often very much happening with people who are very mercurial, and specifically Virgos. You know, this moon is ruled by Mercury, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I hope we can all leave and kind of say goodbye to old attitudes that are considered not so positive and that are Virgo traits that we want to let go of, so that we can go more to where the sun is with the North Node, which is Pisces, which is trusting. And if you trust, you don't have to micromanage everything because you trust. It's a bit more go with the flow. It's a bit more accept things how they are, be in the moment. That's a very Piscean thing. So we want to go to those traits. And so I always have a look at the Saros cycle where these eclipses are belonging towards, which gives a bit of a background. I explained Saros cycle. I put a link of that video as well. And it belongs to the Saros cycle 9, New North. And this is a very related to being very physical, you know, and it matches with Virgo, right? Because Virgo is an earth sign, so it belongs to the physical 3D world. So it's a lot about getting physical, or we are invited to do that, of course, in a safe way, but that's the energy. It's also an energy, that Saros cycle of Venus Mercury. And guess what? This Venus Mercury is repeating itself. So, I mean, the Saros cycle is an original cycle of eclipses of many, many years ago. And there it starts and so on. Again, too long to explain here. But that Venus Mercury repeats itself now. So what is it? We know now, okay, this is a full moon. This is an accomplishment of saying goodbye to old Virgo's traits that are no longer suiting us. Those patterns, we want them out. And but what else? What else is going on? Well, a thing that is very obvious is what's happening with its ruler, Mercury. But first and foremost, the aspect close to this full moon is Saturn. A bit Neptune as well, but let's start with Saturn. Now, as we know, Saturn is still in Pisces, so is Neptune. And Saturn is at 22 degrees of Pisces. So you hear me coming, 22 degrees of Pisces, and then the sun, 23 degrees of Pisces. So that's a Sun-Saturn conjunction. And it's also a moon at 23 degrees of Virgo opposing a Saturn at 22 degrees of Pisces. So it's almost, you could say it's exact. So a very Saturnial full moon. Again, as I always say, this is not about this is good, this is bad. If we keep on doing that, we give our power away. It's about this is neutral energy. It's a Saturnial full moon. That's it. So it's a serious full moon. And eclipse, right? It's not just a full moon, it's an eclipse. It's a serious one. And it's one that has to do with boundaries, that has to do with structure, that has to do with discipline, that has to do with karma. Now, this opposition, you know, that moon there with the south node, it wants to end patterns, it wants to close up. But an opposition to Saturn means relationships. And an opposition also means, particularly with Saturn, that it's not always going to be with, how would I say, that we are finding this very pleasant. Let's put it that way. I'll give you, again, I'll give you one example. Let's say that you're getting pregnant. Let's say you're getting pregnant and you're having this eclipse in your first house, a Virgo, right? You're Virgo rising, you're having this eclipse and you're pregnant. Now, what this could indicate very beautifully is that an old you is the Virgo you, that everything you want to do is perfect, and so on and so on. Let it go, because you're going to get a child, and with a child, you can't do everything perfect. Because if you want to If you want to, let's say the baby will have to drink at 7 o'clock in the morning, then at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Maybe once or twice. So it's leaving those Virgo traits, but the opposition to Saturn means it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to step away from the old you because it's known. That's the Saturnal thing. And also, in this case, the relationship, it could be that you're going up a level, you have more responsibility in the connection that you have. That sort of thing. This is getting a baby a negative thing? Of course not, right? Of course, there were people saying, yeah, it is during these days and so on. Anyway, but it is like that, the saying goodbye to the old Virgo-like self is going to be associated with Saturn, with a bit of a melancholy, with a bit of sadness, with a bit of and the knowing that it's there, and also the responsibilities, the boundaries. So it's, but on a level, on a grand scale, you could say, it's a maturity level up, for sure. When people have these, and definitely with the moon opposite Saturn, this is a maturity level going up. This is going within, knowing that you're changing, and this is the result. You're changing, the structures are shifting towards new structures, right? And but also, of course, a little bit further, that the Saturn is at 22 degrees of Pisces, a little bit further at the end of Pisces, who's there? It's Neptune, 29 degrees. So you see that this sun and this moon will also conjoin a little, maybe a day or two later, a day later, the moon, the sun a couple of days later, it will oppose Neptune. So this is the opposite energy. This is the energy of trust, let go and let God, go with the flow. So there is, in the beginning, you could say, of this eclipse, a lot of resistance, you could say, towards change and towards that letting go. But ultimately, when we get used to it and we see the good in it and we see that it's necessary for ourselves and for other people's involved, we can let go and we can trust. So it's a very beautiful configuration here of these couple of days. Of course, eclipses, you feel them a couple of months before, a couple of months after, but now I'm really talking about those days around the 14th of March and what these aspects of the full moon, what is it doing with the Saturn and the Neptune? So again, it's that, first of all, resisting of letting go of something, but on the other hand, it's like, yes, the release, the surrender, and even getting a little bit nostalgic, emotional because of that. I know Virgo is not really emotional, but Pisces is, and the sun is there as well. So I think it's a beautiful thing for people who really are with these energies and who are really ready to let go of that Virgo South Node thing. They will encounter this rather quickly because, of course, what you resist persists. So that resistance, but it's a human thing. It's like sitting with the resistance and accepting that resistance, that you're having it. And that will make the process of going through it easier. It's a bit like that, I think, in my humble opinion, right? So the letting go is related to structure. It's related to patterns, for sure. And specifically some patterns that we've been having for a long time. It's like nostalgic, right? It's not that it was a bad pattern necessarily, but it's different. Like the for that example again, is like being a woman without a child. That's not a bad thing, but it's a phase, you could say, that ended, and now being pregnant is a new phase. So it's a lot about that. Now, what is going on with its ruler? Well, the ruler of Virgo is Mercury. And it's actually after the day of this eclipse, there is this Mercury and Venus. During that month, it's very close to each other in Aries. And what's happening is that Mercury will be around 9 degrees of Aries and ready to go retrograde the day after the full moon. So you see, it's like something becomes very clear in our consciousness, and then Mercury goes backwards. So that always indicates a reassessment, a rethinking of Aries stuff, things that we want to do, things that we are excited about, things that we want to do yesterday. There is like, I'm going to reassess this. And it's with Venus and Mercury together. So it's about relationships. It's about beauty. It's about Venusian stuff as well. It's about love, relationships, money, beauty products. You name it, everything that is Venusian, what gives us love and joy in our lives. So we're going to rethink that as well. So the Mercury that was still going direct before the 14th of March just went over, is going to go over the Venus retrograde on the 11th. So you see, it's like there is also messages, Mercury, that are revealed around Venusian stuff. So that there will be things that come out. And the Virgo moon likes that. Mercury, the ruler of it, likes that because the Virgo wants to know the truth rather than, dealing with keeping up the appearances, right? Like Hyacinth. Excuse me. So Mercury has a message here, for sure. And so around that time of 14th, so when you kind of allow the universe to do its thing, there's going to be revealed information to you in the area where Aries is, which I'm also going to look at. And that's going to give that insight and that process of, okay, the letting go of something that is no longer suiting us. Now, the positive thing that we have here is that the Sun in Pisces will trine Mars. And so also there's going to be a sextile of Mars to the moon because Mars is at 18 degrees. So that's gentle emotional energy as well. But the basic thing is there's a message here, there's shifts here going on, and we might want to go very fast, and especially with our speech and with what we want to say, but we're going to rethink it. Is it correct? Is it the truth? And because of circumstances, it probably the missing piece will say to us, okay, this is something that I have to reconsider. So it's as simple as that. It's a very interesting time. There's so much happening in the sky, isn't it? It's been a long while that I have to make video after video after video because so much is happening. But anyway, that's the beauty of it. Let's have a look at every single sign, very short. Again, you don't have to explore this too much. It's just that area of life. You need to let go of something. And then the Mercury, the ruler, I want to look at in Aries, because these two areas of life will be connected. But very quickly, Aries. For Aries, this Virgo house is happening in your 6th house. So there's there's something that you can let go of and that is a very good help for you now with this energy. The energy is with you to let go of a lifestyle, of a job, of your health, a routine that you can let go of that is not good for you. And it relates very much to you, your body, because this Mercury and Venus is in the 1st house. So it's very simple. This is all about you. This is a very good time if you say, oh, I want to quit this or that because it's not a good routine, it's not a good lifestyle. You've got the green light, so to speak, because there's so much energy that, and in that Virgo way, maybe you work too much, basically, or you want to do in your work too much of, you want all the details and you're micromanaging, and you're getting just headaches, for instance, which is an Aries thing. So it's time here to let go of that, so that you can go more towards the letting go and let God, and to restore that in a way. Taurians, this is for you a very nice lunar eclipse because Virgo is a fellow earth sign. It's in your fifth house. So what is it that you want to let go of the fifth house? So this, but remember, it's a Virgo thing, it's a pattern. So let's start with love because it's a love house. And remember, this is rather positive because it's trining your energy. So this is a letting go of an old love. Could mean that you're saying, oh my goodness, my attitude around love, it's a bit outdated. I sacrifice, right? I do everything for them. And this is not a good pattern. I let go because I want to be of service. I want to fix them. I let go of that. It could be as simple as that. It could also have to do with the child, so that there is, again, a very positive one, but there's a phase like the child goes, is 18 and is saying, look, mom, I'm going to a different state, or I'm going to study, and is out of the house. And that is the emptiness. On another level, it's hobbies and things that you do that to enjoy yourself. So it could mean a certain hobby, a certain Virgo hobby, maybe writing, reading, that you say, for whatever reason, that you say, I'm going to let go of it. And it's related to Mercury and Venus retrograde in the 12th house. So it's related to relaxation. It's related to how you want to reload your batteries. So it's a letting go also of you being too self-centered. For instance, if you would be that, because the fifth house is a lot about me, it's a lot about self-expression, and you're focusing a little bit more on like-minded people, on groups of people, on connections with others, with like-minded people. Okay, Gemini. For Gemini, this is all happening in the core of your being and your horoscope. So this eclipse is a lot about letting go of an old emotional setup that is a bit Virgo-like, which could be like worrying or emotionally not feeling secure within and trying to look at safety outside of you, and to let go of that. It's a very good time for that. And of course, the ruler Mercury is also your ruler, and it's going backwards and forwards in your 11th house of hope and wishes for the future. So there's a lot of thinking here, because you are changing inwardly, so to speak, and gaining a lot of strength because of that. And it's also a lot about old patterns that are related with your family. So that you're getting rid of, so to speak, and that are no longer working for you. Now, on another level, it's not only emotionally, it could literally your home, that you're selling your home and going for a new one. Could be that as well. But whatever it is, there's a thinking of your goals for the future, a rethinking and a reassessing that is happening here. For Cancerians, this is in your third house. So this is your logical way of thinking, the logical way that you are communicating, the logical way that you are thinking, and definitely in the Virgo way, which is a bit going overboard with the thinking and the worrying, to let go of that. It's a great time to do so. And that ruler is in your 10th house. So there is a reassessment of your career, of your work, of a connection with parents, of your social status. There is a rethinking of that anyways, but a good time for you now to let go of an old way of attitude, also towards third house contacts, which is neighbors, siblings. It could literally mean that a neighbor goes away, an old neighbor goes away, and that is that, that karmic cycle that is around when it comes to your neighbors. It can also mean the way that there are some pieces of your attitude towards siblings that are shifting here as well. Or it could mean a sibling, as I said, like a neighbor is going away or is going to a different country, and so on and so on. But main thing is there is a new style of communication and an old way that is not necessary anymore. Leos, this is happening in your second house. I cannot stress I cannot stress this enough. This is a very material house to declutter. Declutter, watch some good YouTube videos around decluttering. And this is because Virgo likes that everything is tidy and neat and correct and so on. And it's a less is more. It's a time for you to declutter. That's a very physical level. It's going to help you very much to have some time for other things and space as well, and for new stuff to come in, of course, that is more suiting toward for you. And so get rid of all these old books and cups of tea and whatever it is for you, and you're gonna feel lighter. And with that Mercury Venus there in your ninth house, you're also getting rid of and reassessing an old belief system that you're having. On another level, this is your confidence. So there is a shift there. The way that you see yourself, it's outdated. It's a new way now. Can also literally mean excluding something out of your diet, because the second house is that as well. Virgos, of course, the whole intro is for you. If you were having a planet like the sun, the moon, and ascendant around 23, 24 degrees, you will feel it very strongly. You know, if it's your moon, it's more on an emotional unconscious level. If it's your sun, it's more on unconscious level, your identity, your work, important male figures in your life. If it's your ascendant, it's your whole life. It's your whole life. There is this, and I use the example in the intro for you. So watch the whole intro. It's very, very important for you. But there's ways of you that you can say goodbye to, and which is going to be easier now because it's fitting with the energies. Like, oh, I don't want to micromanage anymore. I really want to rely more on others, so to speak, and concentrate more on what others bring in and trust them more, for instance. So that kind of way. But of course, it's going to reflect your relationships. So there's some relationships that, because you are shifting so much, those relationships are going to shift as well. But you're ready for new relationships. And for in the old relationships to upgrade them. For sure, for sure. Especially if they're good relationships, okay? If you're having a toxic relationship, this could mean the end. Certainly with the Venus, Mercury retrograde there in your 8th house of intimacy, of shared resources, for sure. But that's only a very small percentage. For those people who have a fairly good relationship, this is like going up a level, you know? You're thinking about how can we put the resources together and become stronger. That's basically it. But what a shedding of the skin. What a shedding of the skin. Big time for the Virgos, indeed. Big shifts and a lot of saying goodbye to old persona. Librans, 12th house. So this is all happening in your 12th house. This is all this 12th house is where is a very unconscious house. It's and when we tend to have there an eclipse with the south node, it's very good to get rid of addictions. It really is. It really is. So I hope for you, whatever addiction you have, and it doesn't always have to be smoking and drinking. There are tons of other addictions like love addictions and over obsessing about someone, or because, you know, your ruler is going backwards and forwards in the 7th house where Mercury and Venus is. So it could be that. It could be getting rid of an old love, so to speak, or an attitude more towards love that you want to get rid of. And it's going to be bringing you back on the right track, on the right path. So very beautiful for Librans. It's very simple. I'm not going to say more. Sometimes people say, why are for one sign longer than for the other? Because I'm not going to do like a child. Oh, for every 12 signs, I will have the same minutes. Come on. You understand, Librans, because you're that sign that is very, very gentle and will never say that in my comments. Unless you have a moon in Aries, for instance. But anyway, so Librans, enjoy it. Enjoy to shed off those old patterns that weren't even yours in the first place. and the worrying and not being able to sleep because you're worrying and so on. You're doing now beautiful meditations and beautiful release of all that mental stuff. Scorpio is the 11th house, so this could mean that there is an eclipse in the 11th house. That a friend, there is a change that if a friend has been friendship or a circle of friends, like Facebook or a group of friends, an association that you are a member of, that is no longer working for you. This is the time to say goodbye. They were too nitty gritty, and I was nitty gritty with it as well, and we were all kind of complaining what was wrong and judging. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. And you go more towards your fifth house, which is the house of children, the house of play, the house of enjoyment, the house of your hobbies. And Mercury Venus goes retrograde in the sixth, so it's also about your goals. That maybe a goal that the 11th house, the eclipse, that you don't want to pursue anymore, and that makes shifts in your work and in your day-to-day routines, because there you have those retrogrades going on of Venus and Mercury. Sagittarians, it's the 10th house, so that's definitely an important house. That is, for some of you, that is a job or a career that is ending. For others, it is a social status, a shift, like being married, being divorced, being divorced, having a new relationship. Your status shifts in some sort of way. Having no kids, having a kid. But it's also career. So not every Sagittarian is going to lose their career. Of course not. But it can mean that there's a turnaround and you're ready for something new. Or there's an accomplishment, and you're more focusing towards being emotionally content, for instance, because there is where the North Node is, and with the Sun and Saturn and Neptune. So more focused towards your inner world rather than your outer world. It's still important, right? But it's a shift of the focus, so to speak. It's a bit more yin than going a bit more yang and being out there round and about. But for some people, it's a new job, it's getting a new job and very fated. So you can make sure that you're going to be redirected here. And because this Mercury and Venus that is going retrograde in Aries in your fifth house is a lot about your self-expression, there's a bit more focus on your inner world, but also what you enjoy, what you love to do, and being creative, and the focus on that. And this energy in Aries trines your energy. So that's definitely a good thing. Also in your relationship with parents, there could be also a shift there. Or you going to work a little bit more from home now, because the focus is more on home and less in being about and around and about. Capricorns, this is your ninth house, so lots of stuff there that is ending, turning around. So a good time. The old way of thinking, the old way of your belief system, it's done. You're done with it. It's such a beautiful thing, because when you focus more on the day-to-day, on the rational facts and figures, and you're done with those belief systems that are no longer working for you, they might have been very narrow-minded, very perfectionistic ideas and opinions and judgment. There's a sense of letting go of that. And there's also a sense of a belief system that always, for instance, you have a belief system of, I have to work hard and I have to do everything by myself. Let's put it that way. I have to do everything by myself in the world to be successful. But that might have been helped you in the past, and you did a lot, and you did a diploma, and you did work, and you did it all on your own. But now you're saying, it's time for something different. It's time for a bit more, less chasing, more attracting. Something like that. Or any other belief system you're saying goodbye to. And that Venus Mercury retrograde in the fourth house is your emotional setup. So there's a more, you want to restyle your home, for instance, because you want more that emotional security, and that it comes from you and from within, and you express it in your home, for instance. So very beautiful. Aquarians, this is happening in your eighth house. This is already the house of endings and new beginnings. And with an eclipse there in Virgo, could be really that you're being confronted here with those cycles. So, and a saying goodbye of deep psychological stuff, that imaginative fears, for instance. I've seen it many times when eclipses happen there with the South Node, this karmic cycle, that you were afraid of doing this or that, it's done because of circumstances and the way that you worked towards it the years before. It's done here. It's a saying goodbye of, for instance, an attitude that you were too much worried about what other people think, and you go more towards you doing you and you making your own resources and being self-sufficient. There's a focus on that. It's not about to say like you don't have to, the resources of others, say no to it. No, but it's less important now, and certainly with this eclipse. Also on a level of money and money that you share with others, there could be inheritances, there could be tax returns. I hope for you. I hope. I always hope that for people. Um, the return of a tax. But also investments, return on that. Just like this cycle, it's or a debt that is done now. That, like you had a mortgage of 10 years and now it's done. An eclipse in that 8th house, with the South Node, the cycle is around. And but also a bit stepping away of going deep and going within and being interested in the occult, and going a bit more towards, the very tangible things of life. Not that the one is better than the other, but just because it's more suited for you. And it's also intimacy, right? That could be like um, things around sexuality, intimacy that were not healthy for you, or relationships that were not healthy for you, that you're stepping away from that. And that Venus Mercury retrograde is in your 3rd house. So there's a lot happening on a social level. There's a very busyness. It's amazing if you have your own business, because you can kind of put another log on the fire for more sales, for sure, by doing a different website, doing different PR, whatever, doing some short trips. So a focus more towards the very direct environment as well. And last but not least, Pisceans. So this is all happening in your 7th house. So of course, not every Piscean is going to lose a connection, a business partner or a romantic partner. No. But if you're saying, look, this was a very toxic relationship, I've been working on it for years and years to get rid of that, this could be the time with this eclipse, for sure. And with that Venus Mercury retrograde in the 2nd house could mean that you are kind of reassessing your values and the things that you have. This is not mine. This is not suiting me. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to do declutter, all of that. But main thing is your relationships. And because there is a focus on you, a focus on your shifting with healthy boundaries, Saturn, but also with a gentleness and an empathic personality, which you were so much loved for, you dear Pisceans. And so on another level, say you're single, for instance, you could attract a new partner, but that is, you feel very connected towards, because the South Node represents former lives. Could be that as well. And you say like, oh my goodness, this goes so quick because it's like I already know them. But definitely your style of relating to others is shifting. So it could be an attitude of you, for instance, always being worried about the other person, or you feel that you are criticized by others. There's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not, I'm putting a boundary here. And that's great. That's great, especially if you have planets around 23, 24 degrees of Pisces. You can feel this very strongly, this eclipse. And so toxic attitudes around relationships, you being too sacrificial, for instance, that's a very common thing for Pisceans. They say, yes, yeah, I understand. They understand so much, but they lose themselves. So all that attitude, that is of sacrificing, of doing, wanting to fix others, wanting to help others, but they don't want to help themselves, for instance. It's ending here, and it's a good energy to do that, for sure. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, I also have I should have said that in the beginning, but I forgot that I have a promotion going on, and it's for the eclipses. So a promotion from now, the 28th of February, until the 10th of March. Those couple of days, not longer. There's a promotion of me for doing a 15-minute reading, just looking at where these, not only this eclipse, but also the other eclipse on the 28th or 29th of March, the eclipse in Aries. I'm going to have a look at just the eclipses for you and focus on personal horoscope for that. So I'll put a link below if you want to have that reading. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and all the best to you. Bye-bye.